Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I am going to talk about Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord. So the latest trailer just dropped for this brand new animated series and I am so excited. This is going to be about Maul, I guess. He is Darth no longer. So Darth Maul, I suppose, yeah, sure, but now he is Maul Shadow Lord, right? And I think that is a brilliant title for one of the most brilliant Star Wars characters in the entire galaxy of Star Wars, obviously. So obviously Star Wars Maul Shadowlord is an upcoming American animated television series created by Dave Filoni, more on him in just a sec, for the streaming service Disney+. It is part of the Star Wars franchise taking place after the events of the Clone Wars and follows former Sith Lord Maul during the reign of the Galactic Empire. Sam Witwer voices Maul, reprising his role from the Clone Wars and other Star Wars media, with Gideon Adlon, Wagner Moria, and Richard Ayohada, I think, as providing voices. Maul Shadow Lord was announced in April 2025, a year after Witwer joined to provide insight on the characters as well as his voice. The series is produced by Lucasfilm Animation with Matt Mishnovets, I think, as head writer. I think he wrote a couple of Clone Wars arcs like the Embera arc with Ponkrell, right? And I think he did a few other ones. So that's very, very exciting. So there we go. Brett Rowe as supervising director and Filoni, Mishnovets, Rowe, Athena Yvette Portillo, Carrie Beck, and Josh Rimes as executive producers. It tells a serialized story and explores questions about Maul that Filoni and Witwer discussed while working on a previous series. The animation provided by CGCG Inc. Incorporated and Lucasfilm Animation's internal team has a similar style to the Clone Wars, but is more stylized, reflecting Maul's character and the setting on the planet Janix. So Janix is like half Gotham, half Metropolis, 100% Star Wars, they also say. So there we go, that's very interesting. So okay, the 10 episode series is scheduled to premiere on Disney Plus on the 6th of April 2026, with 2 episodes being released each week until May the 4th. So I mean, it's still another 3 months, but I'm very excited. Around a year after the Clone Wars, former Sith Lord Maul rebuilds his criminal syndicate and seeks a new apprentice on the planet Janix during the reign of the Galactic Empire. Stuart Lee returned as an episodic director from previous Star Wars animated series. The 10 episode series is scheduled to premiere obviously on the 6th of April. So there we go. So obviously let's talk about Maul. I think Maul is one of the most interesting characters in Star Wars. Obviously, we know him from the first episode, I guess, which was released in 99, obviously, where Darth Maul fought off with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. That was very, very cool to see. Obviously, Maul, I guess, got dissected, but he returned in the Clone Wars as like a insane spider-lookanoid character, but obviously thanks to magic from the Dathomirian sisters, he was brought back as a sane guy, which, yeah, pretty cool. Obviously, he has met Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. He has met Ahsoka, which obviously most notably he fought her in the last season. So there we go. He also killed off Bo-Katan Kryze, obviously Obi-Wan's girlfriend, or I guess secret girlfriend. So there we go. And yeah, I guess Maul also met Ezra in the Rebels and also fought Obi-Wan, where obviously he met his demise in Rebels. So yeah, Maul Shadow Lord, I can't bloody wait to see what he will do in this series. Obviously, it was also going to be the story that was actually... They're going to continue the story that was seen in Solo a Star Wars story, which is kind of really interesting because Kira was in that movie, played by Emilia Clarke, right? And Maul, after the Clone Wars, he just grabbed power from the crime syndicates, right? Kind of like a guess, mafia guy, I suppose. Is that the same thing as Star Wars? I think so. But he's kind of like a criminal, right? The same level as like the Hutts, right? I think the Hutts have more power, but Maul wants to get, you know, that power too as well. So he makes deals with like the Pikes and other factions. So there we go. It's very interesting. Really can't wait. Obviously, Sam Witwer returns as Maul, a former Sith Lord, right, from the planet Dathomir. And Sam Witwer has always been Maul, I suppose. He also voiced Starkiller and a couple of other characters, but his notable voice of the Clone Wars is literally Maul, so there we go. We also have Gideon Adlon, I think, as Devon Izara, which Don Adlon, I think, is an American actress. Her films include Blockers, The Mustang, The Craft Legacy, and Sick on television. Obviously, she is known for her roles in Netflix's series The Society and NBC's The Thing About, I think, something. But whatever. She looks great. Obviously, she's a Twilight Jedi who is on the run following Order 66 and is targeted by Maul as a potential new apprentice. Head writer Matt Mishnovets said Devon is realizing that the future she expected to have as a Jedi is no longer possible and she needs to adapt. Portillo said there is an innocence to the character who is conflicted between right and wrong. Obviously, this kind of, I suppose, I don't want to say foreshadows, but I want to say reflects. Yeah, maybe that's a better word. That relationship reflects obviously with the Twilight Jedi and obviously a Dathomirian Maul character. Kind of reflects that one storyline that George Lucas wanted to do for the original episodes of 7, 8, and 9, where Darth Maul returns with a Twi'lek apprentice, obviously. I think that's Darth Talon, right? And dude, would have been so cool. And I would be down to see that adapted in like this animated show. I know that Star Wars can go all over the place sometimes, and obviously thanks to this series we go back to Maul's past instead of like obviously going to other characters. But I think it's quite good that Maul eventually has his own television show. Obviously, it's not like the Bad Batch that follows clones, which I'm really glad we also had that animated series. But now we have Maul Shadowlord, and I'm very excited. You know, finally a good villain. I suppose it's a good enough villain to make an entire series about. You can make one for Darth Vader, right? But Darth Vader has been in the original episodes, right? We have an entire galaxy to explore, so why not? Why not, right? Why the hell not make a series about Maul, if you know what I mean? So there we go. When Star Wars: A Bad Batch, a spin-off from the animated series Star Wars Clone Wars, came to an end, supervising director Brad Rowe hinted that another continuation of the Clone Wars universe was in development. During a panel at celebrating the 20th anniversary of Lucasfilm Animation at Star Wars Celebration Japan in 2025, Lucasfilm Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni and Animation Vice President Athena Yevita Portillo announced that studio's next animated series to be Star Wars Maul. Shadowlord focuses on Star Wars character Maul, introduced obviously in The Phantom Menace. Maul was originally portrayed physically by Ray Park and voiced by Peter Serafinowicz, I think. The character was presumed dead until he was brought back in the Clone Wars, obviously. So there we go. Obviously, while working on the previous Star Wars animated series, Whitwer and Filoni, the supervising director from the Clone Wars and the first 2 seasons of Rebels, discussed different ideas about Maul that Filoni felt would be better explored in his own project. Filoni began working on Maul Shadowlord after Lucasfilm Animation staff returned to work following the COVID-19 pandemic. I was joined by many creators from the previous series, including Raw as supervising director and Matt Mishnovets as head writer. So there we go. Alright, the series takes place around a year after Maul's defeat at the hands of Ahsoka Tano at the end of the Clone Wars, as depicted in the final season of the Clone Wars. Obviously, this is years before Maul's story comes to an end during the events of Rebels. Maul Shadowlord tells a serialized 10-episode story which Michnovitz described as fast-paced and action-packed. He felt Maul was the perfect character to drive us through such a story. The writers included homages to classic films, serials which inspired Star Wars creator George Lucas. So, there we go. Okay, that is very good in my opinion. So yeah, okay, a 5-issue prequel comic book series titled Star Wars Shadow of Maul is set to be published by Marvel Comics in March 2026, so a month before the series release. Written by Benjamin Percy with art by Medebek Musabekov. Both returning from previous Marvel Star Wars comics, the comic introduces the planet Genex and the characters Brander Lawson and Two Boots ahead of the key roles in Maul Shadowlord. Two Boots is also going to be a new robot in the series, which is really interesting. So Percy and Missa Bikov were able to read scripts and see episodes of the series while working on the comic. Ooh, that's cool. Percy said it was both a science fiction story and a crime story, with a noir tone that matched Missa Bikov's art style. Okay. Now you have my interest. No, wait. What was that quote again? You got me intrigued, but now you have my interest. I think that's like a quote from Django, right? Where Leonardo DiCaprio said that. But, dude, imagine a neo-noir tone with, like, obviously visualized storytelling, Maul with, like, you know, the trailer looks so cool. They have, like, smoke all over the place. And, dude, I could see this. Okay, this is a perfect combination. Like, obviously, a city or a planet that has like both elements of Gotham and Metropolis with smoke and Darth Maul and double wielded lightsabers, and obviously a neo noir or noir setting. Dudes, that is so goddamn cool. Like, that sounds so much fun. Obviously. But obviously, I really want to talk about Dave Filoni up next. So Dave Filoni was actually confirmed to be the next executive producer of Star Wars, of Lucasfilm. So obviously Kathleen Kennedy is going to step away, and that is really interesting. So Dave Filoni, so there we go. I'm going to grab the article really quickly here. So let's see here. Major Star Wars shakeup as new Lucasfilm president appointed. Dave Filoni has overseen many popular TV series including The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Dave Filoni, a key creative force behind the hit streaming series The Mandalorian and the protege of Star Wars creator George Lucas, has been appointed president of Walt Disney-owned Lucasfilm. The move sees current Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy transition from her role this week to become a full-time producer for the studio, Disney confirmed in a statement. Filoni, 51, will now take the helm of one of cinema's highest-grossing franchises, overseeing both live-action and animated television productions. He will work alongside co-president Lewin Brennan, who manages the studio's business affairs and operations. Disney CEO Bob Iger commented Kennedy's leadership, her vision, and her stewardship of the studio. So there we go. Kennedy, 71, has led Lucasfilm since Disney acquired it in 2012. That is 13 years, wow. Overseeing 3 blockbuster sequels to the original Star Wars trilogy and the successful spin-off Rogue One and Solo. Obviously, Solo, a 2018 film that introduced a new actor as a smuggler made famous by Harrison Ford, flopped in theaters. That prompted concerns that audiences were growing fatigued with the beloved franchise. Solo was just a little disappointing too, as Iger said in 2023. It gave us pause just to think maybe that the cadence was a little too aggressive, and so we decided to pull it back a bit. Disney put Star Wars movies on hiatus in 2019 to focus on live-action TV series, including The Mandalorian, starring Pedro Pascal, and introducing the popular character Baby Yoda, aka Grogu. The company scrapped planned Star Wars films from director Patty Jenkins and Rian Johnson as Kennedy worked to reset the film's strategy. Filoni, meanwhile, oversaw many popular and acclaimed TV series, including Ahsoka. Both Kennedy and Filoni worked with Lucas, the creator of the original Star Wars film series that debuted in '77. The franchise, about a group of rebels in a galaxy far, far away, has brought in more than $10.3 billion at global box office receipts, according to ComScore. Obviously, Lucas handpicked Kennedy as his successor to lead Lucasfilm. She co-founded Amblin Entertainment with Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall and helped produce classic movies including E.T., The Extraterrestrials, Jurassic Park, and Schindler's List. The five Star Wars films, obviously Kennedy oversaw, brought in a combined $5.9 billion. The most successful 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens surpassed $2 billion in the worldwide ticket sales, and I think its theatrical release. So, Kennedy called it a privilege to work at Lucasfilm, adding, "I'm deeply proud of what we've accomplished together." Lucasfilm expanded into the producing live-action streaming TV series under Kennedy, including Filoni's The Mandalorian, which debuted with the launch of Disney Plus streaming service in 2019, and Andor. The company also edited Star Wars-themed lands at Walt Disney World in Florida and at Disneyland in California. So there we go. She also landed the plane with Rogue One. Loria said after rounds of rewrites and reshoots, Lucas hired Filoni in 2005 to help build a Star Wars animation studio. Often spotted at Hollywood premieres and fan events wearing a cowboy hat, Filoni helped create the animated TV series The Clone Wars. So The Mandalorian will head to the big screen in May in a film co-written by Filoni called The Mandalorian and Grogu. The movie Star Wars Starfighter featuring Ryan Gosling is scheduled to reach cinemas in May 2027. Kennedy will continue to work as a producer of these films. Daisy Ridley, star of the sequel trilogy that began in 2015, also has said that she is returning to a new Star Wars project in the future. We just need to wait and see what that turns out. But obviously, I really want to talk about the future of Star Wars now that I had the chance to talk about, obviously, Maul and Dave Filoni. Suppose if everything goes exactly how Dave Filoni wants it, we're going to get Ahsoka Season 2. Obviously, that has been filmed, right? So we're going to get that for sure. Starfighter for sure. The Mandalorian Grogu film for sure. But after that, I have no idea what's coming next, right? We have the Maul animated show. But I think Dave Filoni, obviously, Kathleen Kennedy has said that Dave Filoni is the next creative officer. And to be honest, I'm all here for it.
Having a place like Europe, which sometimes is too slow, for sure, and needs to be reformed, for sure.
Okay, you can say whatever you want about Dave Filoni, but he has the, I would say, the experience and obviously the mindset of a great Star Wars creative. Obviously, he is obviously the protege of George Lucas, and I don't mind it. I don't mind it. George Lucas and him were actually great together. They worked on the Clone Wars, and Clone Wars is fantastic, right? And people can say whatever you want about Dave Filoni. Yes, he makes shows that obviously center around a couple of recurring characters like Ahsoka from Rebels and Clone Wars. And yes, Dave Filoni loves Ahsoka, but I do love Ahsoka also, right? Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character, so you know, the more we get from her, in my opinion, the better. But she can't be the only Star Wars character that obviously will need to get in these coming years. Obviously, she's going to, you know, be maybe be a lesser character in a few years. Obviously, we're going to get a sequel or like a season 2 of her show, right? That's great, that's fantastic. But I do get if people are worried about, you know, maybe Ahsoka is going to take over Star Wars now or whatever. No, I don't think that. You know, I think Dave Filoni will have his plans. Obviously, he probably planned it all out, right? There are like literally a couple of like periods where you can place stories in Star Wars. The galaxy of Star Wars is insanely huge, right? We have the Dawn of the Jedi, which we might get that movie also, right? I think that was written by Mike Flanagan or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but anyhow, the Dawn of the Jedi, the beginning years of the Jedi. The Old Republic, obviously, that's another period in Star Wars's history. The High Republic is another period in Star Wars's history. Fall of the Jedi, Order 66, right? Reign of the Empire, we know that the best. Age of the Rebellion 2, the New Republic, right, during the Mandalorian years, the First Order, okay, and the New Jedi Order, which obviously is set after the sequels. You have so much to fill up with great stories and Star Wars. The universe is gigantic. Every little nook and cranny has a little detail and or backstory, right? So Dave Filoni, you know, I think he's going to pull it off, right? I think he probably discussed it with Kathleen Kennedy, like obviously a few years ago, right? And I think Kathleen Kennedy kind of took him under her wing to, you know, make sure that he's going to get it all right. You know, his Clone Wars was great. Star Wars Rebels was also really good and okay. Ahsoka, the live action series, I loved it, right? But there are so many characters that literally are his creations, right? And it's so weird. Like, every single character that people love, you know, Dave Filoni probably also created, which is kind of really cool if you think about it. Will we get the Heir to the Empire movie of him? I'm not quite sure. We just need to wait and see. I would love to see it, but you know what? Everything can happen, right? So Dave Filoni, you go and get it, man. I'm a really big fan of him. So man, Dave Filoni, you're an absolute goat, and I would love to see where Star Wars will go in the future. I trust the man. The same thing, you know, and the same thing I trust with James Gunn. I know exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Okay, so James Gunn on the DC side, Dave Filoni on the Star Wars side, and maybe after Secret Wars, some brand new producer will take over Marvel. Then you have the trilogy of franchises here, you know. Dave Filoni, the new creative officer of Lucasfilm, creating Star Wars. James Gunn with DC. Dude, and I can't bloody wait, man. I'm so hyped, excited to talk about this. Like, imagine great DC stories, great Star Wars stories in a couple of years. Man, I don't think the earth is ready for that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed me rambling on about Star Wars, because Star Wars is one of my favorite franchises. You know, my favorite movie is the original Star Wars created by Lucas, because you know it's just fantastic. I can make a separate video on it, but whatever. But you know, I rewatched that film with great comfort, and because it is my favorite, you know, movie, I love and I respect the universe that they're building and creating. I love everything Star Wars, right? So I'm a huge nerd like that, I know, but I can't really wait to see where this will go. Obviously, including the Maul animated series. So, alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will check you later. Or should I say, may the force be with you. Goodbye, everyone.
Chains can be broken.
Hang on!
And empires can be shattered.